Whether you're just delving into the world of voiceover,
you're an established voice actor,
or you just want to listen to some unfiltered thoughts and opinions about the industry,
then this podcast is for you.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Jen. And this is the Off Air Podcast.
Welcome, ladies and
everybody.
gents, to another episode of the Off Air Voiceover Podcast. We have a very, very, very special guest who's taken the time out to speak to us today. And I'm going to say it as it is, the citizen of the world, which I think is one of the greatest name tags ever. Susie Valerio. How are you doing, Susie?
Hello, I'm good.
We're so pleased to have you on.
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
There's so much fantastic information and influence through your career that I think so many people can really sort of learn from, and obviously it gives us an opportunity to get a little bit better as well.
And we're going to steal everything. We're just going to learn. That's why we've really got you on, Susie, because we want to learn from you.
So, well, I'll tell you what, before normally say, do you want to introduce yourself? Before we get into that, how's everyone's week been? Everything okay?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Now that the roadworks seemed to have quietened down, I can breathe.
Susie and I were just talking. It's the bane of a voiceover's life. Like, you can feel it, like the panic attack coming on. Can't you? You see them getting out these orange cones.
It's really odd. So I moved house, same street last year, because my landlord sold. So I moved, and I knew it was going to be only for like a year or so, because this guy wants to sell as well. But on the same street, on the other side, now it's super noisy. Like my old house, I lived there for 11 years. You couldn't hear anything. Now it's like, it's the same street. I don't really, because I think it's the gardens, the way they back to the other side of the street. It's just like, so I'm in constant fear when I have like directed sessions going like, is the neighbor going to behave? Are the dogs okay? Are the kids, that's...
Oh, that is stressful.
I live in the countryside, and obviously because the weather's gone really nice now, everyone's obsessed with lawn mowing. Obsessed. And obviously because it's big fields, they have like the big petrol-powered ones, they're sitting and they're just plodding along. And as soon as you see it come out of someone's garage, you're like, oh, shit. It's like, that's the next 4 hours written off. And they're just taking the time, taking in the sun, like probably sipping a little beer while they're doing it. I'm just like, watching through the window like, will you please just hurry up?
Oh, it is so stressful. My week's been pretty good. Today's been a bit of a roller coaster. So I had a really fun session for Global. That was really nice. And an ad for a new women's festival that's being an international women's festival, which I'm really nice to support, something that I care about. So that's good. And then found out that I'd lost a job, which is the first time it's happened to me. And they, I was doing a job and they had used someone previously, and basically they wanted them and I wasn't them. So a bit gutted about that. But these things happen, don't they? And then, really excitingly, I got to hang the washing outside in the sun. So I have peaked.
Life goals. I actually did an advert for Sky Bet, but it wasn't a betting advert. It was to do with the British Heart Foundation. And the first bit of direction I got for it, they gave me the script, and it was like, the idea was that they're going to donate money to the British Heart Foundation. Because I think gambling adverts or betting adverts is a bit of a taboo subject.
Yeah,
it's not something
really.
I put myself out there to promote. Yeah, but because of the angle they were going at, I thought, okay, I'll do it. So anyway, the original direction they gave me, it was like, it needs to have a little bit of energy, because the first bit is like a promo for football, then it goes into the British Heart thing. So I gave it, they said, you need to really bring the tone down for that middle bit where we're selling the heart and the donation stuff. So I did. And I sent it off, and then I got feedback saying that they've decided they want to go really high energy. So I was like, okay, fine, no problem. So I went really high energy. And then in the end, in a similar vein to you, Jen, they've actually decided to scrap all of that, and they've used sports personalities to deliver the message in the same way they asked me to do it the first time round. So it's one of those where, sometimes you feel like, do you definitely know what you want?
No.
Do you know what I mean?
I think that's the answer. No.
Do you want to just give like a little bit of an introduction in your own words as to sort of yourself, your career, and what you're about? Yeah.
So I'm Susie. I was born in Brazil. I've been in England for 150 years. And I trained as an actor, so as a kind of physical actor, I guess. but I've been doing VO for a very long time, and I also work in casting. So I record in Brazilian Portuguese and in English. It used to be back in the olden days that most of my VO work was in Portuguese, but nowadays it's actually mostly in English. So it has kind of shifted. And I think.
When you say forever, how long, like how many years roughly have you been doing VO?
Oh, VO, like 20.
Right, okay, yeah, wow.
Forever.
I suppose during that time, then I know, like I got involved. I dipped my toe into the industry in 2017, and I remember when I started then, there was already a lot of talk about how things were changing with the rise of like P2P websites and things like that. So going back even further, so you must have seen major changes to where we are now.
So to begin with, it was just one. So I finished uni. Then I used to do a lot of workshops at the Actors Centre in London, and then I just would do literally all workshops, any workshops going. And then I saw one on voiceovers, and I thought, well, actually, I've got an accent. That's not for me, but I'll go along anyway. Because I've always liked equipment and stuff. So I thought, I'll just go and learn. And then I went, and then as I started talking, the guy was like, you have to do a demo because out of this room, you are the person that probably will work the most because you've got another language. And I'm like, I didn't really think that there would be any use in London for a second language. Native language or an accent or anything. I just thought I'm never going to get any work, but I believed him. And then it was like I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, then I might as well do a demo with him. And he was a BBC producer called Bernard Shaw. Not the writer. So I thought, well, it was quite expensive for me at the time. Like, it felt like a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a big commitment.
But I thought, well, I'll invest because he seemed so, like, he was so convincing to me that I thought maybe he's onto something. So I did the demo and I did literally everything he told me. Like, he gave me like a list of things to do, and back in those days you had to burn CDs. Like, it was a really long time ago, so I had to burn the CDs, and then I made like the world's ugliest CD cover, because I'm terrible. But I did all those things. I was like, oh, what should I do that's really creative? Put a Brazilian flag. It just looked terrible, really bad.
Can we share that somewhere? Can we see?
Honestly, I'll see if I might have kept it.
Oh,
it's
please,
painful,
that'd be amazing.
So bad.
Yeah.
Like the worst design you would ever see. But I did that. And like I burned all the CDs, like, manually doing things. Put everything in the post, And then I got an agent. I signed up with Hobson's, I think was like my first one. So quickly, like
That's
literally
amazing.
1 week. So I'm like, oh, maybe he was right. So like I paid, the thing paid for itself like super fast.
Yeah.
And then for quite a while, I did that as something else. So, you go castings for commercials and things and plays and films and whatever. And then also the voiceovers. But with time, and then it started to sort of overtake all the other bits.
Yeah.
And then eventually it just became full-time, just doing VO.
From a casting point of view then, are there some like, I know because obviously you're VO as well, but are there some like definite do's and don'ts from the casting side that you see people do all the time?
Susie's face just lit up there, like just so everyone...
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one because I think that, there's like that, I'm sure literally every single person that works in casting or production will start with the same, that is, make sure you name your files correctly.
Right.
I think people don't understand how important that is. Is just because, like, if you're doing a job, like, say if you do, I work a lot on video games, and so you have a project with like 10 characters, and you are approaching like, I don't know, 5-10 agencies, you might quite easily get like hundreds of files. And if they're not named correctly, when you send over to the client, it's really confusing. So actually, if you don't name your file correctly, you will very likely be deleted.
Yeah.
It feels like it fills me with fear, that kind of thing, because it is it's so easy to make a mistake as well, isn't it? It's like, but I saw something on X the other day, and somebody had like tried to help the talent out by saying like first name, last name, underscore, character name. And basically the person who had applied hadn't changed the first name, last name. So it was first name, last name, underscore, and then the character, and they just hadn't changed.
Oh,
they
the
hadn't
actual
changed,
words, first name,
the
last
actual
name.
words. They
Right.
hadn't.
Oh, I get
Do
that
you?
all the time.
But like, can you manage the embarrassment of that? Like, oh,
I get that all the time.
and
First name, last name, agent.
No, I just
like,
okay. What do you do with that? You must be like, you must despair.
I delete. I mean, depending what it is, like obviously, like if it's coming from an agency, because the format always changes. So as an actor, like I'm sure sometimes I might make the mistake because sometimes you're in a hurry and you don't, it's not always. Sometimes I get people that wouldn't make that kind of mistake making it. So if it's like not very much, I can fix it. But when it's like an agency that send a whole bunch, we can't. But because then you can't find the person.
Oh, yeah.
So the easiest thing is to just maybe copy paste the thing that was on the email, because the format will change depending on the project. Some projects will start with the project, the character and the actor.
Advice.
Or, like you don't know whatever the, system that they came up with. But if you're not following the system, you just, like I've got one agency that shall not be named.
Put it in the chat, Susie.
They had a bunch of auditions. They, many of them were great, but they are one of those agencies that don't tell you the actor's name.
So that you couldn't go
full
direct.
name.
Is that what they're suspicious that you might do?
Well, I think they just do that as a kind of, it's their way of working. Because, why would we go
absolutely.
direct?
If you've gone to the agent.
If you're hiring like 10 people, it makes no sense. Like the hassle of going direct. So, if everyone is just easier to deal with the agent, isn't it? But I think that they just do that because obviously a lot of people would probably go direct. I don't know. But you have someone like, I don't know, Steve. There was one particular name that had like 3 of the same, and I'm going like, the client picked one, and I'm going, who are you? I'm like, look, I've got like this Chris person, which Chris? So yeah, but they wouldn't put the full name. So yeah, now when it's a very big casting, we now, I personally, because I kind of send stuff out to agencies with that particular agency, I sometimes kind of feel a little bit reluctant, because if I'm going to be sending out for 10 characters, the chances that the names are going to be double.
But that's, I mean, the thought of an agent then missing out on that work and those actors not getting access to that because the agent won't adapt.
Oh, happens
that's
all
awful,
the time,
isn't it?
In different ways, not always. Like this agent, they're really good actually. This agent. So I called, I emailed, and I said, there's 3 people with the same name and stuff. So that was fine. It worked out all right. And, we had good communication. Otherwise, it's just their system. But some agencies, man, honestly, like they don't really help their talent, because like they'll send folders that are super unorganized. They won't send the NDAs, or they won't name things correctly, or the NDA will be like, because you go like, I'll make sure everything is filled in. It won't be all filled, like things like that. Some agencies are a bit like that. Maybe they put junior people looking after, sending things out.
Maybe,
I don't
but
know.
you think there should be some kind of standard, expectation.
Yeah, but I think that but what happens is that if that happens once or twice, then you just don't contact them again.
Oh my goodness, that's not good.
I know this is quite a broad question, but with the way things are these days in terms of like you see a lot of games. I know obviously games is such a wide spectrum, so some will have like ogres and orcs and zombie voices, but in general there seems to be because I'm a gamer, and there seems to be a shift now where a lot of games really go deep on storytelling, and therefore the voice actors are just doing just pure acting. There's no silly voices, comical voices, aliens. Is that definitely a thing? Is it right?
100%. Yeah.
It's so
that across the board for everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't cast animations, so I wouldn't really comment because I don't know. But as an actor doing workshops and listening to people, like in conferences and stuff, casting directors that work on animations. I think that's happening on animation as well.
Yeah, it doesn't about
in
the
the UK
authenticity,
and the
doesn't
US.
it?
Do you think it's necessary to have like a repertoire of voices though, if you're going to do voice acting? Do you think it's enough to be able to provide a authentic, real performance, or would your chances of being cast be much improved if you can do an alien voice or whatever it may be?
I think if I would say an alien voice or like like funny voices and stuff like that. It's a thing that will never go away in certain ways, because like people that can do those things naturally, that can be super useful if you're doing like a game that you can play lots of secondary characters and stuff like that. So you're playing the main character, but then you can be used in the game as someone else with a different accent or whatever. But if it's not something that comes naturally, because I can, from the top of my head, like I know like 4 or 5 people that come to my head straight away that are just people that do voices, as in like as people. It happens that they are actors and that they get paid to do it, but they would do the voices anyway.
You do meet some people like that who are just you're sitting around the dinner table or whatever, and they're just doing funny voices. Yeah.
So that definitely is useful, but I think that the main thing is actually to be a good actor.
At VO Atlanta 2021, you did a talk all about European market, the global market, and essentially it's marketing yourself to international European, or for a better phrase, non-English speaking countries. I'm a huge proponent for this, massive, because I'm not saying that the UK market is saturated, but there is a huge amount of potential outside of our bubble waiting to be tapped into. And I firsthand know this. And what I've garnered is that, pretty much every non-English speaking country will need an English speaking voiceover to create some sort of dubbing or translation, whatever it may be. And you only need to sort of think about, okay, so if I'm going to start attacking Germany, for example, what city do you want to start with? And even
I wouldn't phrase it as attacking Germany. I think that was a poor turn of phrase. International relations.
Yeah, we live in
ruined.
dangerous times.
Yeah,
There we go. Okay.
With our mics in hand.
Oh, God. And the day's just about to get started. There we go.
Try again.
Okay, approach. If you approach Germany, you approach, and then it's like, then you think about a city in Germany or Spain, and then it's only then when you sort of think, hang on, like it just gives you an idea of the vastness of opportunities out there.
Yeah.
So I've started looking at France, and yeah, I just think, like I said, I'm not saying the English market is saturated. There is still work there, of course there is. You've got your clients that will come back to you, but yeah, like so that is what you teach. It's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, I mean it's a big world, isn't it? I mean, I think that, potentially every country, like with English particularly, they will always need, if you're a company, medium-sized company, you will probably do something in your language and in English as well. Right. The only thing with that is that obviously you kind of then need to, I think that's one thing that it's a common mistake in my view, that people make, is that they go like, oh, I'm working for India, it's, like I'm charging less. It's like, well, no, because it's your rate is your rate. So I, for example, for Brazilian Portuguese, I get that all the time. Like, I get contact from Brazil. I don't work for Brazil very much. They pay very badly. Right. So I don't. But when I do get approached, and I already go in with like, guys, maybe you give me your budget, because if I give you my rate, you're going to run screaming. And then
I respect that, definitely.
Straight away, because otherwise you kind of get trapped in this kind of negotiation that is not so, then I can see the budget, and if it's like, no, I can't, like, I can't work for that, then they know straight away. So I think that that's the main thing when you're working with companies abroad, is make sure that you have whatever you think is your fair rate. And if the country is a country with a lower currency, that's not your problem.
Yeah. I do feel like I have a lot of those conversations though with people in the UK even, and it's like, you tell me your budget, and they're like, well, you tell me your price. I'm like, well, you tell me your budget, and then it kind of goes back and forwards. But I think absolutely right, know what your rate is.
Yeah, but I think it's easier when it's a different country though, because then you kind of, so I have, which I haven't even looked at for ages, but I did do that a while ago, and I think it helps because. So I've done like a rate card.
Oh, have you? Right.
Just for my own kind of...
Oh, so you just, for you've done a rate card. You don't share that on your website or anything?
I used to before, back in the olden days when I was a little bit more proactive, contacting a whole bunch of... But yeah, I kind of, it's more like for your own, so I did one in pounds, one in euros, and one in dollars. And they had sort of... based on like GVAA rate cards and, our rates here in the UK and the German rates that they have set by their union and stuff. And they're kind of guidelines for me that is like, well, okay, this is what I'm kind of aiming at, or this is the low, you can do it either. So I had like the what I'm aiming at and the lowest I could say yes to. And then that makes it easier because if someone offers me something that is not on that, I just say no. And it makes no difference to me if they're calling me from Argentina. Like if they, it makes no difference because they're still going to use that globally with the English. Makes no difference at all because English is not their language. So obviously they will be using the English worldwide or in England or they're not attracting Argentinians.
Of course, yeah, really good point.
But I would say that I started off looking for agents in other countries.
Oh, okay. That's what I was going to ask you. That was my next question. Thinking about that talk that you did, what was the general sort of advice as to how to approach going to European markets? Like I know you're saying about you having quite a few agents.
I think what you were saying is the perfect way. Kind of tackling, a region. So
not
so
attacking,
going like
tackling.
Tackling.
Tackling. Just put that clear. We're not advocating a
tackling. That's the difference.
No, enough of that already.
Oh God, yeah.
No, but I think that go by region or by because also once you start, it kind of is a bit of a rabbit hole kind of thing,
Absolutely.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So you get into...
I get massively overwhelmed.
Yeah, but then you start, like say, I don't know, like get I don't know, any random place like Madrid or whatever, pick your country and then a city in that country, and then you start looking at production companies, and then you find a few because some countries don't work with agencies in the same way that we work here. So you kind of start Googling, and then from that, it becomes a little bit addictive, I think, when you do it regularly.
I think there's a bit of a thing at the moment where some companies are jumping on the AI bandwagon to shorten their workflow, but actually, and I've said this in the past about AI. I think. Taking the AI voice, well, I suppose you can probably even include AI voices into the equation, but I think the AI workflow, I think it's come out of nowhere so rapidly, and I think, like, take translation as an example. Some companies, we can translate your work, and they just stick it in ChatGPT, and what's coming out is nonsense, and actually it's creating more work for people on the other end because it's not right. And I have a funny feeling that this might go full circle, and Shiraz came up with a good analogy a while ago. She went, I think it'd be like 3D TVs. They came out, everyone's, it's fantastic. And after a couple of years, I was like, you know what, they're actually pretty shit. Terrible. Do you know what I mean? And now nobody wants a 3D TV. Everyone's go back to because what we had before worked. And I think AI it's obviously going to be here to stay, but I think in some ways, certain aspects of AI might go full circle, where some people are going to be like AI voices, they're so soulless. There's no... There's certain things that AI voices just I don't think will ever be able to replicate. Yes, they'll improve over time, but there's certain things, like you do meditation, don't you, Susie? And,
I do,
and storytelling. Yeah. AI will never be able to fully get that emotion across. You know what I mean? So it's too flat. And I think what'll happen is you'll find some companies will start using maybe AI voices in their thing, in their branding, whatever it may be. And I think after a while, I think consumers, as a consumer myself, and this isn't me being biased because I do voiceover, but I get sick of listening to an AI voice, and I think it'll get so rammed down people's throats that it'll go full circle, and I have a feeling that some things will backfire.
I mean, I think with commercials, like I do a fair bit of commercials, and like if you're in a session, it's a 30-second spot, yeah, and sometimes you spend an hour working on a 30-second spot because there are loads of people on the call.
Yeah.
They make changes in the script. Different people want different things, and they just want like the product said in a different, a whole bunch of different ways or whatever. I just don't see how on something that has the budget, like bigger brands or whatever, you're not saving any money, because actually on that hour you have everyone in the same room or in the same space, as in like virtually, discussing the project, and then you have the actor doing hopefully what you kind of doing what you have in your head. I don't think that you can do that with AI as well.
Well, it's like, if you're in a studio...
Maybe I'm being super naive.
No, I agree. I think because if you're in a studio session, how often do they go, it was like that? Can you just try dropping the inflection here or changing... You can't,
exactly.
Can't do that with AI.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I can type it again and press enter and see what happens. It's like, that's all you're getting.
It just takes longer.
Yeah.
In a way.
My concern with AI, I mean, they've got many concerns, but you get used to it.
Oh,
I think
100%. Yeah.
So, like, if you listen to TikTok now, it doesn't jar quite in the same way as it used to. Because I'm like, well, I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
And I think, especially for younger generations, that's what they get used to hearing.
Right. Well, you have touched on a very good point there. Because whilst I double down on my opinion that certain elements of AI, I think people will get fed up of, and certain things will revert back because the human approach, the human element, just works better and it resonates more. The flip side to that is, I agree, Jen. I think this generation growing up now, they don't really know any different. They've been so brought into content, AI-driven, AI voices, that they won't really see... I'm not so sure if they'll notice.
I mean, I don't know. Like, so with my son, but then it's different again, because he used to do VO when he was little, and he knows loads of voice actors. So maybe not the typical 15-year-old. But he gets annoyed because he goes like, "Wow, they haven't got, like, they want me to buy this, but they can't be bothered paying an actor."
Can we get him saying
That's
that more?
fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I think that there is a thing on that as well, because they also, another thing is that they can recognize the AI a lot better than we can.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So I don't know how.
Yeah, well, I want to look
Thomas
into
goes
that.
like, "Oh, that's AI." I'm like, "How do you know?" And he goes like, "Yeah, definitely." And so that could be, there is a
That's
thing,
encouraging.
for brands.
One thing, touching on that, one thing I said a while ago was that for the AI voice, most companies these days, a lot of their branding really does sort of centre around we're like you, the human element, like we're all, and that's why they want to have the conversational read, the natural read, because they want to sound as authentic as possible. So to me, there's no logic in they getting an AI voice to deliver that authentic read. It just makes no sense.
Makes no sense.
It makes zero sense whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have like different tiers, isn't it? Like the bigger companies maybe kind of sticking with humans, and that will be that thing, like, because it can be like the uniqueness of it. Yeah. And then obviously the people that are already losing work, and I mean, and that's across all languages. Yeah. Would be the people that do mostly like e-learning and that kind of stuff.
E-learning,
or even the phone messages. Although that being said, interestingly, and I don't know if it's the case for people that do phone messages in English, but in Brazil, they like the voice to sound like someone is chatting on the phone. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and I say yesterday I tried to call somewhere and I got a phone message thing, and it was like my bank, I think it was, and I was shouting at the phone. I hate phone messages with a passion when I call, and I'm like, oh my God, there's so many people that hate me. Like, I'm really aware of that. Because it's really annoying. If it's that's why I take like really a lot longer doing my messages, because hopefully people listening are not shouting quite as much, because I really hate it.
Depends where they're queuing, I guess, Susie. There's only so much you can do.
Yeah, but if you get a system that you kind of looped in, but if that's AI, you might be losing customers.
And I think AI is worse. And so if I pick up the phone to call someone, which is rare. But if I'm greeted with an actual human, I feel slightly more like they care than I do if it's a robot. I genuinely do.
Yeah.
And that's a really basic thing. And like, they're not paying us a lot to do this phone messages. Like, it can't be that much of a cost saving.
Yeah, actually, here in the UK, that's the only thing that pays better in Brazil than here is phone messages. Is really well
really?
paid. Yeah,
Okay.
because they pay usage.
Michael, we need to contact Brazil.
But yeah, I mean, the thing I had yesterday, it was something that I tried to do online and then I couldn't. So they said you have to contact. And then you contact and the AI keeps telling you to then go online.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I just want to speak to a person.
Please, a person.
But you see, there you go. So that just reinforces what I said, my point earlier on, and I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think companies are going to be like, just use AI. It's way cheaper. It's way more. And then people like us are going to be like, I'm just sick to death of listening to stupid AI voice. I want to speak to a real person. And it won't take long for the backlash to get around because it'll become public knowledge and companies go, we're actually pissing everybody off. Let's go back to voice. And that's what I was trying to say before.
Yeah.
I think that in a lot of areas, I think that is what will happen. Right now, we're going through that adaptation phase. It's quicker, it's easier, it's cheap, blah, blah, blah. And then after a while, it'll be like, hang on a minute, we're pissing everyone off. Let's go back to what works. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
I think we are at the really worst time because it's when these things are changing. So we kind of, but I agree. Yeah. If companies start losing money, then they'll go back to humans.
I'm going to change the subject now because I cannot let Susie go without talking about the Sovas win last year.
Oh, the Sovas, yes.
I would love you to tell us a little bit about that, please.
So I am actually the Brazilian ambassador. So I had this idea ages ago. So I used to be a juror for just like for various English categories. Like when you don't really know what you're gonna get when you sign up to be a juror. So they only just when it starts you get these things that are all anonymous and stuff in different categories. And then I always thought, oh God, we should kind of have a category in Brazilian Portuguese. They've got Spanish as well. So I then emailed. I was like, I think this would be a really good idea. And they were like, yeah, that is a really good idea. So do it. I'm like, what? So
just give yourself a load of work there.
Yeah. So I then unwittingly volunteered because it's like I don't get paid, but so I started doing the Brazilian categories, and then for like we're on our third or fourth year now, and I never used to submit my work for Portuguese because I thought, although I know I'm not even judging the Portuguese categories, I felt a bit weird because I was kind of, setting the thing up and then competing as well. I thought that was a bit strange, so I didn't. But last year, because now things are set, the guys in America are running all the Portuguese. Last year I entered and I won.
Yay, that's so cool.
With my sleep stories.
So were these meditation stories?
Yeah, so I work for a app called Sleepiest.
Okay.
And
I think I've seen that actually.
It's really cool. Like there's like different things. So there's meditations, there's stories, and there's also like they have another thing that you can do your own just sounds and stuff. So the one I won with is a story. So it's a short, like about an hour, 40 minutes stories. That hopefully the person never listens to the end because
I was going to say that's a long time to be awake for if you're trying to get to sleep.
Yeah, but I think so the idea is that you kind of, the pace changes and the volume changes, and then,
it's fascinating.
We think that people like generally like first 10-15 minutes people are asleep. Yeah. Some people have really bad insomnia and they might get kind of towards the end of the track. But
I was going to say quite quickly, but you've been you've been in voiceover for, a long time, and clearly you are still, getting better and better. And I think that's to be really admired. I know a lot of people who've been in this industry for quite a long time can feel quite stagnant, or, they don't feel like they're progressing. Clearly you are still doing that. You're still brushing up, you're still learning, you're still growing your skills.
It's the fun bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like to do the workshops.
Yeah.
Well,
I just enjoy kind of, workshops and workouts. And you go to this one thing that people always ask about, like, oh, you go to a conference, are you going to get any work? Probably not. But actually, over time, yes, because you meet a bunch of people, and
Yeah.
and
Build
like I've
relationships.
had lots of things that have come out over the years, like not straight away. I didn't come back from VO Atlanta the first time I went and got a job. But over the years, I've had multiple jobs from people that I met in places like that, and often from actors.
Yeah.
Like, because I recommend people to things same way that people recommend me. It's like, so it's kind of a thing that you're doing in the long run.
Yeah, it can be a bit short-sighted just to say, oh, and have you gained work from it? You're like, well,
Yeah,
give
no,
me-
but it's like people always ask that, and they go like, oh, I went and I didn't get anything. It's like, but did you make any friends? Like, really,
Yeah.
is the only thing
Yeah, definitely.
So before we wrap up, there is one other thing that you are doing. You're one of the speakers at Comic-Con next month at the XL in London.
I am, yes, I am.
Wowee.
Very
With
cool.
someone that I met at VO Atlanta.
See, there you go.
There you
There's
go.
the link.
Yeah.
There you go.
A friend I made in VO Atlanta 10 years ago, or however long it was.
And now you're going to be on
cool.
stage at the London XL doing a talk about... So what, it's about voice acting in video games?
Yeah.
Wowee.
Susie's face right now is priceless. Like, she doesn't
like,
really know what's happening.
No idea. Sat there with a whole bunch of very famous people. I'm just going to be like, hi.
Yeah. But honestly, it's been a joy getting to know you, and obviously I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how your XL thing goes. And yeah, if you do want to jump on and do a part 2 one day, then you'd be more than welcome.
100%. Count me in, guys. I had a great
yeah.
time.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Go on, Jen.
And
You gonna do it?
Yeah, you go. Michael and I are so rubbish at these bits. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please like and subscribe and share. We'd
All the
really
things.
appreciate it.
All the things.
things. And join us next week for another episode
Of the off-air voiceover podcast. There we go.
podcast. We almost did
Get in
it.
there.
Thank you, Susie.
Oh, thank you. I had a great time.
Thanks, Susie. Thanks so much.
See you next week.
Take care, folks. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and we will see you on the next
Bye.
one. Cheers, folks.